Imagine sitting across from someone who seems charming, confident, maybe even magnetic. Their smile is warm, their words carefully chosen, their laughter contagious. You'd never suspect anything was off. Yet, behind that perfectly polished exterior lies a mind devoid of genuine empathy, a mind that views people as tools, not humans. Welcome to the unsettling world of the psychopath, a world hidden in plain sight, blending seamlessly with society. Psychopaths are masters of disguise. Unlike the villains of horror movies who lurk in dark alleys or whisper threats in shadows, real-life psychopaths often walk among us in offices, classrooms, and even family gatherings. They don't wear a sign that says, "Danger ahead." In fact, they wear a mask so convincing that their closest friends or colleagues might never see the cracks beneath the surface. But what makes this mask so effective? The answer lies in understanding how psychopaths perceive the world, and how they carefully craft the version of themselves everyone else sees. At first glance, a psychopath might seem like the perfect colleague, intelligent, witty, and socially adept. They notice the subtle dynamics of any group and exploit them without hesitation. They understand how to adapt their behavior to fit the expectations of others. Want to see a classic example? Picture someone who effortlessly mirrors your interests, laughs at your jokes, and seems to genuinely care about your struggles. Psychopaths are skilled mimics. They observe and copy the social cues of those around them, creating the illusion of normalcy. This skill is not just natural charisma. It's a calculated strategy, a conscious or subconscious plan to manipulate perception. The danger and fascination of psychopathy comes from this invisibility cloak. Because they blend so well, spotting a psychopath is rarely straightforward. They are not defined by grotesque or erratic behavior. Instead, they thrive on subtlety. It's in the micro-expressions that don't match their words, the slightly off timing in emotional responses, the tiny inconsistencies in stories that never quite add up. These are clues, but only if you know where to look. Most people, drawn in by charm and outward confidence, overlook them completely. Psychopaths are also experts at crafting their personal narrative. They understand that people don't just respond to actions, they respond to stories. A tale of personal struggle, a story of success, or a narrative of loyalty and friendship can all be manipulated to serve their purposes. They may present themselves as victims, heroes, or misunderstood geniuses. In every case, the story is meticulously tailored to inspire trust, admiration, or empathy in those around them. This skill is why so many psychopaths rise to positions of power. In workplaces, political arenas, or social circles, the ability to control perception is often more valuable than competence. One of the most chilling aspects of this mask is how it allows psychopaths to operate with impunity. Unlike the typical bad guy, a psychopath doesn't feel guilty in the way most people do. Mistakes, harm, or betrayal do not trigger remorse. They are simply obstacles or opportunities. Yet, from the outside, it appears as if the person is thoughtful, careful, even ethical. They study societal norms and moral rules, learning them well enough to imitate compliance perfectly. This is not just deception. It's a cognitive strategy honed over years, allowing them to move through life undetected while pursuing personal gain. Consider the stories of famous psychopathic figures in history and modern society. Many were noted for their charisma, intelligence, and social grace, qualities that initially won trust and admiration. Ted Bundy, for instance, was described by acquaintances as polite, charming, and even helpful. No one suspected the darkness lurking beneath his carefully constructed public persona. Similarly, corporate psychopaths often rise to positions of power precisely because they are skilled at masking their ruthless ambition behind a veneer of competence and charm. The mask of normalcy is a shield, a tool that allows them to advance without triggering suspicion. The mechanics of the mask go beyond simple charm. Psychopaths are attuned to emotional cues in a way that is almost uncanny. They can detect fear, desire, and vulnerability, and use that information to their advantage. For instance, if someone seems anxious or insecure, a psychopath might offer support, but the intent is not kindness. It's a strategic play, designed to deepen dependency or manipulate behavior. They are, in essence, social predators, reading emotions as easily as a chess player reads the board. This makes them extremely dangerous because the average person assumes others share their own moral compass. We assume trustworthiness and good intentions. Psychopaths know this and exploit it ruthlessly. Yet, despite their cold, calculating nature, the mask is not perfect. There are subtle cracks, almost imperceptible, but detectable with careful observation. A slight delay in emotional response, an expression that doesn't quite reach the eyes, an inconsistency in a story. These small signs are like the faint scent of smoke before a fire. But because they are so skilled at controlling these signals, most people never notice, or if they do, they rationalize them away. This is why psychopathy is so terrifying. The danger is hidden, and often, by the time it is recognized, the damage has already been done. But the mask extends far beyond mere behavior. Psychopaths carefully design their environments and relationships to reinforce their facade. They choose friends who admire them, partners who depend on them, and colleagues who respect their perceived competence. Even their hobbies, appearance, and lifestyle can be strategically curated to project a specific image. Some adopt philanthropic roles, volunteer positions, or public-facing responsibilities, not out of altruism, but as a stage for their carefully constructed persona. Everything is calculated to sustain the illusion that they are trustworthy, relatable, or morally upright. Think of it as a psychological theater. The psychopath is both actor and director, constantly analyzing the audience and adjusting the performance. They are aware of the power of first impressions, of the subtle cues that inspire trust, and of the moments when overexposure might arouse suspicion. This level of awareness allows them to maintain their mask over years, even decades, moving seamlessly through different social circles without detection. Their ability to anticipate reactions and adapt in real time is a cognitive skill few can match, and one that makes them terrifyingly effective manipulators. The mask also serves a defensive function. In a world where empathy, morality, and social bonds are assumed, revealing their true nature would invite immediate social rejection, legal consequences, or retaliation. By adopting the mask, psychopaths protect themselves from these outcomes. It's a survival mechanism, finely tuned to exploit the predictability of human social behavior. Ironically, it is this very mask that allows them to operate without fear, guilt, or hesitation. An invisible armor shielding their actions from the judgment of others. And yet, the mask is not just a tool for manipulation, it is a window into the psychology of control. By observing how they interact with the world while hiding their true self, we begin to see the extent of their cognitive sophistication. Psychopaths are strategic thinkers, capable of long-term planning and meticulous risk assessment. Every interaction is a potential opportunity, every relationship a potential asset. Even love, friendship, and loyalty can be twisted into instruments of influence. Some psychologists compare the psychopath's mask to a mirror. Not a mirror reflecting who they truly are, but a mirror reflecting what we expect to see. They offer an image of themselves tailored to the observer's desires, biases, and vulnerabilities. This is why intelligent, empathetic, and cautious individuals can still fall prey. The psychopath doesn't just hide their darkness. They show exactly what they know you want to see. It is, in every sense, social camouflage perfected over a lifetime. Understanding the mask of normalcy is the first step in understanding psychopathy itself. It forces us to reconsider what we assume about trust, morality, and human behavior. The people we admire, work with, or even love may not be who they appear to be. And the more someone seems flawless, charming, or persuasive, the more careful we must be in examining whether that perfection is genuine, or a carefully constructed facade. The mask of normalcy is both the defining feature and the most dangerous tool of the psychopath. It allows them to navigate the world without detection, to manipulate without remorse, and to leave destruction in their wake, all while maintaining the appearance of an ordinary, even admirable individual. And for those who encounter them, the revelation of the truth can be both shocking and devastating. Step inside the mind of a psychopath, and you'll find a world that defies conventional human logic. It's not simply evil. It's a cognitive landscape shaped by calculation, detachment, and relentless self-interest. Unlike most of us, whose thoughts are often tangled with emotion, morality, or empathy. The psychopath's mind is a finely tuned machine designed to assess risk, exploit weakness, and maximize advantage. Understanding this mental architecture is key to grasping why they act with such chilling efficiency, and why they can operate unnoticed in our midst. To begin, imagine your own thought process. When you plan an action, your emotions weigh in, you hesitate, you empathize, you imagine consequences not just for yourself but for others. Now strip all that away. Remove guilt, remorse, and moral conflict. Replace them with a hyper-rational drive toward personal gain, social dominance, or sheer curiosity. What remains is the cognitive engine of a psychopath. Their thoughts are precise, adaptive, and dangerously pragmatic. Every decision is a calculation, every interaction a potential vector for control. One of the defining features of a psychopath's thought patterns is instrumental thinking. Unlike ordinary aggression, which is often reactive, the psychopath's aggression is deliberate. It is a tool, not an emotional outburst. If harming someone achieves the desired outcome, it is considered, weighed, and executed. If it doesn't, it is abandoned. There is no moral hesitation, no pangs of conscience, only the stark logic of cause and effect. This approach to thought makes them terrifyingly effective in domains where strategy and foresight matter: business, politics, and even criminal enterprises. But it's not just about calculation, it's about perception. Psychopaths perceive the world through a lens of utility. People are not individuals to them. They are objects, resources, or obstacles. Every encounter is analyzed. Who can be influenced, who can be intimidated, who can be discarded. Emotional signals are studied and manipulated. Fear, desire, loyalty. These are not experiences for them. They are tools to be wielded. In their mind, the human landscape is a chessboard, and they are always several moves ahead. Consider how psychopaths process risk. Unlike the average person, who may hesitate at the potential consequences of a risky decision, psychopaths evaluate the probability of outcomes with cold precision. Fear does not cloud their judgment. Moral repercussions are irrelevant. Their brains are wired to prioritize reward over restraint, which explains why they often engage in behaviors that others find reckless, yet seem strangely calculated and successful. This is why so many psychopathic individuals thrive in high-stakes environments. Finance, politics, competitive sports, and even criminal masterminds. Neurologically, research has revealed that psychopathy is associated with differences in brain areas responsible for empathy, fear processing, and moral reasoning. The amygdala, critical for emotional learning and recognizing distress in others, often functions differently in psychopaths. The prefrontal cortex, involved in planning, impulse control, and decision-making, may be hyperactive in some contexts and underactive in others, contributing to a mix of strategic foresight and cold-hearted calculation. These structural and functional differences help explain why their thought patterns are simultaneously meticulous, ruthless, and detached from ordinary human emotion. Another defining characteristic is manipulative reasoning. Psychopaths excel at anticipating human behavior, predicting responses, and crafting strategies to achieve their goals. They are adept at reading micro-expressions, detecting insecurity, and exploiting subtle social dynamics. Imagine someone who can immediately sense who is likely to trust them, who will follow their suggestions, and who is vulnerable to intimidation, and then tailor every interaction accordingly. This is not intuition. It's a cognitive skill honed to perfection, a dark combination of observation, memory, and cold analysis. Suspense builds when you realize how relentless this mental machinery can be. Unlike most of us, who occasionally pause to reflect, second-guess, or empathize, the psychopath's mind rarely rests. Every social interaction is an opportunity, every perceived weakness a potential advantage. They are always assessing, planning, and adjusting. Even in mundane settings, a lunch meeting, a family gathering, a workplace project, they are mentally mapping strategies, anticipating reactions, and calculating probabilities. It is this constant mental vigilance that allows them to stay several steps ahead, often until it's too late for those around them. A critical component of psychopathic thought patterns is emotional detachment. Whereas most people's reasoning is intertwined with feelings, the psychopath compartmentalizes or suppresses emotion. Fear, Guilt, compassion, or shame are either absent or neutralized. This absence allows for extraordinary focus and clarity in decision-making, but it also produces a chilling indifference to harm. Consider a scenario: two paths forward, one benefits the psychopath at the expense of another person, the other is neutral. Most people might hesitate or feel remorse. The psychopath moves without hesitation. To them, the choice is clear, emotion does not interfere. Interestingly, some psychopaths demonstrate superficial charm and effective mimicry, which they use strategically to influence others. Their thought process often involves calculating what emotional display is most effective in a given context. A smile, a look of concern, or a feigned sense of camaraderie is not spontaneous. It is a decision based on expected outcomes. This creates the uncanny ability to appear emotionally engaged, while underneath, the mind is cold, observing, and calculating. The combination of emotional detachment and manipulative mimicry is one of the most dangerous aspects of their cognitive style. It makes them invisible predators within social networks. The psychopath's thought patterns also reveal an obsession with control. They constantly evaluate power dynamics: who holds influence, who can be manipulated, and who might threaten their position. Relationships are not nurtured out of love or loyalty, they are engineered. Trust is earned only to be exploited. Loyalty is leveraged, and alliances are formed only when they serve a strategic purpose. This mindset turns ordinary social interactions into a series of tactical engagements, each designed to maximize advantage and minimize risk. Suspense intensifies when you realize that psychopathic thinking often includes long-term strategic planning, unlike impulsive behavior often associated with other antisocial profiles. Psychopaths are capable of mapping out complex sequences of actions that may unfold over months or even years. They anticipate consequences, adjust strategies, and remain patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This combination of patience and calculation is why some psychopaths succeed in manipulating entire organizations, leading intricate scams, or even committing crimes that remain unsolved for decades. A disturbing but fascinating aspect of psychopathic cognition is their moral detachment. They often understand rules, ethics, and social norms, but these exist as external concepts rather than internal guides. A psychopath knows what society considers right or wrong, not because they feel it, but because recognizing these rules helps them predict others' behavior. In essence, morality is a tool in their mental toolbox, used strategically to achieve goals, not to guide behavior. This allows them to operate convincingly within moral frameworks while violating them when advantageous. The mind of a psychopath also exhibits hyperfocus on reward. Goals, outcomes, and personal gain dominate thought processes. This focus is often accompanied by selective attention. They ignore distractions, social constraints, and the suffering of others, concentrating solely on the paths that lead to success. Imagine a predator tracking prey. Every move calculated, every variable considered, nothing left to chance. For a psychopath, every social, financial, or personal interaction can become a hunting ground, a puzzle to be solved for maximum benefit. Finally, it's important to acknowledge that psychopathic thought patterns vary across individuals. Not all psychopaths are violent criminals. Many channel their cognitive skills into business, law, politics, or other high-stakes environments. What unites them is the pattern of strategic, detached, and manipulative thinking that prioritizes self-interest, control, and calculated outcomes over empathy or moral restraint. Understanding these patterns allows us not only to recognize psychopathy in the real world, but also to anticipate and mitigate its potential damage. Stepping inside the psychopath's mind is unsettling because it forces us to confront the limits of human intuition. We are wired to expect empathy, morality, and emotional consistency in others. Psychopaths exploit this expectation, using the predictability of human thought against us. Their mental landscape is both a warning and a lesson, a glimpse at the extreme of human cognition unrestrained by emotion, a blueprint of strategic thinking without conscience. By understanding the psychopath's thought patterns, we begin to see the structure behind their actions. The mask of normalcy we explored earlier is not merely superficial, it is the outward manifestation of this complex cognitive architecture. Behind every charming smile or persuasive argument lies a mind that analyses, predicts, and manipulates with precision. To comprehend psychopathy fully, we must enter this mental world, however uncomfortable, and trace the steps of a mind built for influence, control, and survival. Imagine trying to connect with someone, sharing your deepest fears, your joys, your triumphs, and your heartbreaks, and sensing no emotional resonance in return. There's no reflection of your feelings, no recognition of your pain, no sense of shared humanity. This is the emotional reality of interacting with a psychopath. Behind their mask of normalcy lies a fundamental void, the absence of empathy. It is not merely a lack of kindness. It is the neurological and psychological inability to feel or process emotions in a way that connects with others. Understanding this void is crucial to comprehending both the terrifying allure and the hidden danger of psychopathy. Empathy, in most humans, functions as the glue that binds us socially. It allows us to feel what others feel, anticipate their needs, and respond in ways that sustain trust and cooperation. Psychopaths, however, operate outside this emotional network. Their emotional processing is fundamentally different. Neurologically, studies indicate irregularities in the amygdala, the brain center for processing emotions like fear and distress, and in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, responsible for moral reasoning and emotional decision-making. This combination creates a profound disconnect between perception and feeling. They can see suffering, but they do not experience it. They can hear pain, but it does not trigger compassion. This absence of empathy is not just theoretical, it manifests in everyday behavior. A psychopath may observe someone crying, and instead of comfort, they calculate how that emotion can be exploited. Fear becomes a tool, sadness a lever, and joy a facade to manipulate. For example, in a workplace, a colleague's anxiety might be used to assign more work, shift blame, or gain authority. In relationships, a partner's emotional vulnerability may be subtly weaponized to maintain control or provoke dependency. What is shocking is the cold precision with which this is done. It is not cruelty for cruelty's sake, but a calculated use of emotion as an instrument. The emotional void also explains why psychopaths can commit acts that others find unthinkable. Where most people's conscience would halt harmful behavior, the psychopath's mind remains indifferent. Murderers like Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy did not operate in a haze of rage. They acted with a disturbing clarity, observing and manipulating, calculating risk, and striking without emotional hesitation. Even in less extreme contexts, such as deception or betrayal in social or professional settings, the absence of empathy allows them to harm others with no internal conflict. Interestingly, the psychopath's lack of empathy does not equate to emotional sterility. Many experience superficial emotions, anger, frustration, excitement, but these feelings are often shallow, short-lived, or entirely self-focused. Love, guilt, or remorse, the emotions most humans experience in response to others' suffering, are largely absent or mimicked for effect. For instance, they may simulate sadness to gain sympathy, feign regret to manipulate, or display affection to secure trust. But underneath, these displays are strategic, not authentic. This ability to mimic emotional responses adds another layer of danger. Psychopaths can appear warm, compassionate, or sensitive, lulling victims into a false sense of security. Socially and professionally, this mimicry allows them to ascend positions of trust and influence. A charismatic leader, a persuasive colleague, or a charming partner can all be psychopaths using the appearance of empathy to manipulate perception. The emotional void, paradoxically, becomes invisible precisely because they can imitate emotion convincingly. The void also affects moral reasoning. Most humans' decisions are influenced by the anticipation of how actions affect others emotionally. Psychopaths, lacking this internal feedback loop, rely on external rules, logic, or self-interest to guide choices. Laws, social norms, and codes of conduct are tools to be understood and leveraged, not internalized constraints. This explains why some psychopaths operate with astonishing patience, planning intricate manipulations or crimes over months or years. They are not limited by the guilt, doubt, or hesitation that restrains ordinary individuals. Another consequence of the emotional void is the inability to form genuine attachment. Relationships for psychopaths are transactional. Partners, friends, and colleagues are evaluated based on utility, loyalty, and vulnerability. Emotional bonds that most people take for granted, trust, love, mutual concern, are either absent or strategically fabricated. This is why many survivors of psychopathic abuse report feeling used, manipulated, and profoundly alone, even when outwardly everything appeared normal. The absence of empathy also amplifies risk-taking behavior. Without fear of causing harm or guilt over consequences, psychopaths can engage in actions that others would avoid. High-stakes deception, financial manipulation, or dangerous criminal activity becomes feasible because the emotional brakes that slow ordinary humans are missing. In a sense, the void grants both freedom and danger. A mind unburdened by moral or emotional restraint, capable of extraordinary focus and strategic action. Consider the chilling implications in social contexts. A psychopath in a friendship may appear loyal while simultaneously exploiting trust for personal gain. In romantic relationships, emotional manipulation can escalate to coercion or abuse, leaving victims questioning reality. In the workplace, colleagues may be subtly undermined, sabotaged, or emotionally exploited, all without outward signs of wrongdoing. The emotional void is the engine behind these behaviors, invisible yet devastatingly effective. This lack of empathy also influences communication. Psychopaths are often articulate, persuasive, and attentive to social cues, but their understanding of others' feelings is analytical, not experiential. They can predict responses, detect vulnerabilities, and craft language to influence behavior. But the connection that arises from shared feeling, the warmth of sympathy, the resonance of sorrow is absent. Conversations are strategic interactions, not exchanges of mutual understanding. One of the most disturbing aspects of this void is the potential for deception over long periods. Victims may form attachments, share secrets, or depend on the psychopath, unaware that their emotional world is invisible to the other person. The betrayal feels catastrophic precisely because the psychopath's indifference makes trust a one-sided investment. The mask of empathy, combined with the void underneath, allows manipulation to proceed with almost surgical precision. Neuroscience offers further insight. Functional MRI studies reveal reduced activity in regions associated with emotional processing when psychopaths observe others suffering. They may intellectually recognize pain but fail to feel it. This dissociation between cognition and emotion is a hallmark of psychopathy. It enables complex planning, social mimicry, and strategic exploitation without the emotional cost that constrains ordinary humans. Yet, the emotional void is not absolute. Psychopaths can experience self-focused emotions intensely: anger when thwarted, desire when pursuing goals, and excitement when challenges arise. These emotions, however, are primarily motivational rather than relational. They drive action and strategy, not connection. In this way, the psychopath's emotional landscape is inverted. Feelings are tools for personal gain, not bridges to others. Understanding the emotional void is crucial not only for recognizing psychopathy but also for self-protection. Awareness of the absence of empathy allows potential victims to see through manipulations, anticipate patterns of behavior, and maintain boundaries. The key is recognizing that while a psychopath may appear caring, their emotional engagement is a facade, a calculated performance rather than a genuine response. In sum, the psychopath's emotional void is both their greatest strength and their most terrifying feature. It enables cold calculation, strategic manipulation, and fearless pursuit of goals. It allows them to mimic emotion convincingly while remaining impervious to guilt, remorse, or compassion. And it leaves those who trust them vulnerable to exploitation and harm, often without warning. By exploring this void, we gain a window into the dark cognitive and emotional architecture of psychopathy. We begin to understand why their charm can be so compelling, why their actions can be so devastating, and why ordinary human intuition so often fails in their presence. The absence of empathy is not merely a personality trait. It is a structural feature of the psychopathic mind, one that defines how they perceive, process, and act in the world. Step into the world of psychopathic manipulation, and you enter a realm where trust is currency, deception is an art, and control is the ultimate goal. Psychopaths are not impulsive predators acting without thought. They are master strategists, orchestrating interactions and relationships with precision. Their manipulation is not random. It is deliberate, methodical, and highly effective. To understand how they control and deceive, we must examine the tools, techniques, and psychological principles they wield with unnerving skill. At the heart of psychopathic manipulation is psychological insight. Psychopaths are keen observers of human behavior. They notice micro-expressions, speech patterns, body language, and subtle emotional cues that reveal vulnerabilities, desires, and insecurities. This information becomes the foundation for influence. For instance, if someone hesitates or doubts themselves, a psychopath may offer guidance, support, or reassurance, not out of kindness, but to foster dependency. Every interaction is an opportunity to learn, analyze, and exploit. One of the most common tactics is charm and charisma. Psychopaths often possess a magnetic social presence that draws people in. This charm is strategic, a tool to lower defenses and build trust. They know how to appear likable, competent, and empathetic, creating an aura of credibility that makes their manipulations harder to detect. A smiling face, a carefully timed compliment, or an attentive gesture can disarm even the most cautious individuals. The danger lies in the fact that the charm is a mask. It conceals the absence of genuine emotional engagement and masks ulterior motives. Exploitation of vulnerabilities is another hallmark of psychopathic influence. Everyone has fears, desires, or insecurities. Psychopaths identify and weaponize these with precision. In the workplace, this might mean leveraging a colleague's ambition to manipulate decisions or outcomes. In personal relationships, it could involve exploiting emotional dependence to gain power or compliance. The key is subtlety. The manipulation is almost invisible, framed as guidance, support, or mutual benefit, while the psychopath quietly advances their agenda. Suspense and danger increase when we consider the use of fear and intimidation. While not always overt, psychopaths can subtly create anxiety and tension to control others. A threatening glance, a sharp word, or a carefully timed rumor can unsettle a target without leaving tangible evidence. Fear becomes a silent tool, conditioning behavior and ensuring compliance. This psychological dominance is often more effective than physical coercion. It is invisible, leaving the manipulated unaware of the mechanisms controlling them. Triangulation is a strategy often used to manipulate social networks. The psychopath introduces rivalry, jealousy, or competition between individuals to maintain control. By pitting friends, colleagues, or family members against one another, they create an environment where others are distracted, insecure, or divided, making it easier to assert influence. This tactic is common in corporate settings, political arenas, and even personal relationships. It is a silent, strategic form of power that often goes unnoticed until significant damage has been done. The psychopath's approach to manipulation is also highly adaptive. They constantly assess responses, adjust strategies, and shift tactics based on the effectiveness of their influence. If one method fails, they pivot seamlessly to another. This flexibility makes them extraordinarily difficult to counter. They are always one step ahead, anticipating reactions, and recalibrating their approach in real time. Unlike impulsive manipulators, their actions are deliberate and calculated, producing outcomes that appear coincidental or natural to observers. Flattery and mirroring are subtle yet powerful techniques. By reflecting a person's values, interests, or opinions, the psychopath creates rapport and trust. This is not genuine identification. It is strategic mimicry designed to make the target feel understood and valued. Once trust is established, influence becomes easier. The mirror acts as a psychological lever, giving the psychopath insight into desires, fears, and motivations, all of which can later be exploited. Triangulation and isolation often work in tandem. After establishing trust, psychopaths may isolate their target from supportive influences, whether emotionally, socially, or professionally. Isolation increases dependency, making the target more vulnerable to manipulation. Without external perspectives, the victim struggles to recognize deception, remaining entangled in the psychopath's calculated web. This isolation is gradual and subtle, often disguised as concern, advice, or guidance, making it difficult for others to intervene. Suspense deepens when we consider the psychopath's use of deception. Lies are not just incidental, they are tools of influence. A well-timed falsehood can redirect suspicion, create opportunities, or manipulate outcomes. Psychopaths are skilled at layering deception with truth, creating a believable narrative that conceals manipulation. The effectiveness lies in their ability to present consistency, confidence, and plausibility, making detection difficult, even for trained observers. Manipulation also extends to emotional exploitation in group dynamics. Psychopaths often excel in leadership or social roles because they can influence entire groups. By appealing to collective desires, fears, or prejudices, they direct behavior on a larger scale. This can be seen in corporate environments, political movements, or social organizations where the psychopath's influence subtly shapes decisions, norms, or alliances. Their control is often invisible, hidden beneath charm, competence, or perceived authority. One of the most disturbing aspects of psychopathic manipulation is its long-term strategic planning. Unlike impulsive actors, psychopaths often conceive plans that unfold over months or years. They anticipate obstacles, predict reactions, and orchestrate events with remarkable foresight. Whether in corporate maneuvering, personal relationships, or criminal activity, their manipulations are rarely random. They are the product of careful, patient calculation. The consequences of these manipulative behaviors are profound. Victims often experience confusion, self-doubt, and emotional turmoil. Relationships break down, careers are derailed, and social networks are destabilized. Psychopaths leave a trail of psychological disruption, often without anyone fully realizing what has occurred. The combination of invisibility, precision, and adaptability makes their manipulation uniquely effective and uniquely dangerous. It is important to note that not all manipulation by psychopaths is overt or dramatic. Subtle tactics, small lies, minor betrayals, or emotional nudges can accumulate over time, producing significant influence. This gradual approach allows them to operate undetected for extended periods, building power, loyalty, or dependency before their true nature becomes apparent. The slow, almost imperceptible erosion of autonomy is one of the most insidious aspects of psychopathic control. Understanding these manipulative techniques is not just academic, it is practical. Recognizing charm that feels strategic, flattery that mirrors rather than reflects, or subtle gaslighting can help individuals protect themselves. Awareness of these tactics provides a framework for anticipating behaviors, setting boundaries, and reducing vulnerability to psychological exploitation. In essence, psychopathic manipulation is an art because it combines observation, strategy, adaptability, and emotional exploitation into a seamless whole. It is both subtle and powerful, often invisible until its effects are undeniable. By mastering the principles of influence, deception, and control, psychopaths navigate social landscapes with remarkable effectiveness, leaving devastation in their wake without overt violence or detection. It becomes clear that the art of manipulation is not random. It is a deliberate, calculated, and frighteningly effective tool of the psychopathic mind. Understanding it is crucial for anyone hoping to recognize, anticipate, or counter the subtle yet profound influence of these hidden predators. Charm is the psychopath's most potent weapon. It is not accidental or superficial. It is a calculated tool used to disarm, seduce, and manipulate. While most people associate charm with warmth, charisma, and likability, in the hands of a psychopath, charm becomes a weapon of subtle control. The danger lies in its dual nature. It is both alluring and invisible, drawing victims in while masking the cold, calculating mind beneath. From the first moment, a psychopath's charm is designed to create trust and rapport. Their mannerisms, tone, and gestures are carefully calibrated to reflect the expectations and desires of the person they wish to influence. They mirror behaviors, subtly mimic speech patterns, and use body language that conveys attentiveness and understanding. This creates a sense of familiarity, comfort, and even attraction, without revealing their true intentions. It's the perfect camouflage for a predator. Psychopaths often use charm to establish credibility and authority. They exude confidence and self-assurance, projecting an image of competence that people instinctively respect. Whether in social settings, workplaces, or romantic encounters, this presence can make others defer to their opinions, follow guidance, or accept influence without suspicion. The appeal of authority is magnified when combined with charisma. People are naturally drawn to those who appear confident, knowledgeable, and engaging. The seductive power of psychopathic charm lies in emotional mimicry. While they lack genuine empathy, psychopaths are skilled at simulating emotional responses that resonate with others. They can appear compassionate, enthusiastic, concerned, or affectionate, matching the emotional needs of the target. This mimicry is so convincing that victims often perceive it as authenticity, unaware that it is a calculated performance. In essence, the psychopath becomes a mirror reflecting what the target wants to see or feel. Flattery and admiration are integral to this charm. Psychopaths know how to make people feel special, valued, or admired, often exaggerating qualities they observe. Compliments are not random. They are tailored to exploit insecurities or desires. This makes the target more receptive, more trusting, and ultimately more manipulable. The praise is seductive because it validates self-perception while simultaneously creating dependency on the manipulator's approval. A key element of dangerous charm is mystery and unpredictability. Psychopaths are masters of pacing their interactions to maximize allure. They can appear unpredictable, exciting, or intriguing, creating a sense of fascination and emotional engagement. This unpredictability keeps targets off balance, reinforcing attachment while making it difficult to perceive danger. The thrill of mystery becomes a psychological hook, drawing people deeper into the web of influence. Sexual or romantic charm is often an area where psychopaths excel, though it is not universal. The combination of charisma, attentiveness, and emotional mimicry creates powerful attraction. Victims may feel an intense emotional connection, believing the relationship is mutual, while the psychopath evaluates, manipulates, and exploits vulnerabilities for personal gain. The seduction is not necessarily physical alone. It is psychological, emotional, and social, designed to entangle the target thoroughly. Psychopaths also employ strategic disclosure as part of their charm. They reveal just enough personal information to seem relatable, vulnerable, or trustworthy, without ever truly exposing themselves. This selective intimacy fosters closeness and trust, encouraging the target to reciprocate emotionally. By controlling the flow of personal details, the psychopath creates a sense of shared experience while maintaining full control over the narrative. Suspense heightens when considering how quickly charm can escalate influence. Initial admiration or attraction can quickly evolve into dependency, as the target begins to internalize the psychopath's attention, approval, and presence as validation. What begins as casual engagement transforms into psychological entanglement, often without the victim realizing the extent of their emotional investment. Contrast and contrast effect is another technique embedded in psychopathic charm. They may alternate between warmth and coldness, attention and detachment, praise and subtle criticism. This push-pull dynamic is emotionally intoxicating, producing attachment and desire while maintaining control. The target experiences a roller coaster of emotional highs and lows, which paradoxically increases attachment and perceived intimacy. The danger of this charm is compounded by the psychopath's patience and foresight. They are rarely impulsive in seduction. Instead, they observe, learn, and adjust their approach. Each interaction is a data point, each reaction a clue. They map the target's desires, fears, and boundaries, calibrating charm to maximize influence. Over time, this methodical approach creates a psychological dependency, ensuring the target is invested before realizing the manipulative nature of the engagement. Even beyond romantic or interpersonal settings, charm serves a strategic function in social, professional, and political environments. Psychopaths can use charisma to build networks, gain followers, or neutralize opposition. They are adept at presenting an image of reliability, likability, and competence, while quietly advancing personal goals. Their influence spreads subtly. Colleagues, peers, or groups may unconsciously align with their suggestions, decisions, or direction. A hallmark of dangerous charm is the invisibility of intent. Unlike overt aggression or coercion, charm operates beneath awareness. Targets are seduced into trust and compliance without recognizing the underlying motive. This invisibility makes it difficult to resist or defend against, as the manipulative behavior is perceived as genuine connection or admiration. Psychopaths often use charm to disarm skepticism. People naturally approach friendly, charismatic, and attentive individuals with openness and trust. The psychopath exploits this social bias, knowing that charm lowers defenses and reduces critical scrutiny. Questions, doubts, or caution are deferred in the presence of warmth and charisma, creating a fertile ground for influence. The seduction of psychopathy also relies on timing and emotional rhythm. They understand when to engage, when to withdraw, and when to escalate attention. Charm is not constant. It is rhythmic, designed to maximize anticipation, desire, and receptivity. By controlling emotional pacing, the psychopath guides the target's reactions, making influence feel organic and unforced. Importantly, dangerous charm is not universally recognized as harmful. Many victims describe the initial interactions as exciting, flattering, or transformative. It is only later, often after trust and attachment have been established, that the manipulative and predatory aspects emerge. This delayed realization is what makes psychopathic charm particularly insidious. It seduces before it harms, leaving emotional traces that are difficult to disentangle. Psychopathy is not always deadly, but when it is, the results are chilling. The same traits that make psychopaths persuasive, charming, and manipulative can, in extreme cases, fuel acts of violence that seem incomprehensible to ordinary minds. Understanding how psychopathy can escalate to deadly behavior requires examining the mindset, the triggers, and the patterns that distinguish a dangerous individual from a high-functioning manipulator. At the core is fearlessness. Psychopaths lack the normal emotional restraints that prevent most people from harming others. Fear, guilt, and empathy, emotions that regulate behavior, are absent or severely blunted. This absence allows them to act without hesitation, whether in committing fraud, sabotage, or, in extreme cases, murder. The mind of a dangerous psychopath is free from the emotional brakes that prevent ordinary individuals from crossing moral lines. Calculated aggression is another hallmark. Unlike impulsive violence, psychopathic aggression is often deliberate and strategic. Many notorious criminals, from serial killers to con artists who escalate to violence, operate with meticulous planning. They study victims, evaluate risk, and choose the moment when detection is least likely. This combination of patience and precision makes their crimes chillingly effective. The escalation from manipulation to violence often follows a pattern. Early behaviors, lying, exploiting, emotional abuse, gradually intensify. Minor transgressions and breaches of trust may be ignored or rationalized, both by the victim and the psychopath. Over time, manipulation may evolve into coercion, intimidation, or physical harm. This progression is subtle, often unnoticed until the psychopath's actions have reached a point of no return. Neurologically, the deadly psychopathic mind shows differences in brain structure and function. Research has found irregularities in the amygdala, which processes fear and emotional responses, and in the prefrontal cortex, which governs judgment and impulse control. These differences are linked to a lack of empathy, impulsive decision-making in high-risk contexts, and diminished moral reasoning. In combination, they create a mind capable of extreme actions without remorse or hesitation. Predatory thinking distinguishes deadly psychopaths from others. While many psychopaths manipulate for social or financial gain, the criminally violent engage in a form of predation akin to hunting. They study patterns, anticipate behaviors, and select victims with careful precision. Whether in serial crimes or targeted attacks, their actions often reflect a chilling combination of foresight, detachment, and strategic thinking. One of the most terrifying aspects is their ability to mask intentions through normalcy. Many deadly psychopaths appear ordinary: charming neighbors, competent professionals, or charismatic community members. This facade allows them to operate undetected for long periods. Their crimes are planned and executed under the cover of an unremarkable life, making suspicion difficult until patterns emerge. Victim selection is strategic. Psychopaths often target individuals whose vulnerabilities can be exploited: physical, emotional, or situational. Victims may be chosen for accessibility, social isolation, or psychological susceptibility. This deliberate targeting maximizes the likelihood of success while minimizing the risk of detection. In this way, deadly psychopaths operate with chilling logic and efficiency. Control and domination are central motives. Violence is rarely random. It is often a tool to assert power, maintain dominance, or satisfy internal desires. Physical harm, intimidation, and psychological terror become methods to manipulate, punish, or eliminate threats. In extreme cases, the act of killing itself may provide psychological gratification, a stark reflection of the emotional void and predatory instincts within the psychopathic mind. Criminal psychopaths often display ritualistic or patterned behavior. Serial offenders, for instance, may develop specific methods, routines, or symbolic acts associated with their crimes. These patterns are not merely compulsive, they are calculated, reinforcing control, minimizing risk, and satisfying internal drives. Recognition of these patterns is often key to profiling, predicting, and ultimately apprehending such individuals. Impunity and lack of remorse further heighten the danger. Ordinary criminals often weigh consequences. Fear of punishment or guilt inhibits behavior. Psychopaths, by contrast, operate with a profound sense of impunity. They can commit heinous acts repeatedly, confident in their ability to evade detection or navigate social structures. This absence of internal moral restraint makes them uniquely lethal. Psychological manipulation often precedes physical violence. Victims may be isolated, deceived, or emotionally coerced before harm occurs. By controlling perception, behavior, and social connections, the psychopath sets the stage for actions that may escalate to physical danger. This combination of charm, manipulation, and eventual violence makes intervention extraordinarily difficult. High-profile criminal cases illustrate these principles. Figures such as Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and others displayed remarkable charm, intelligence, and social manipulation, masking lethal intent until their crimes were uncovered. Each case demonstrates the combination of calculated manipulation, predatory planning, and emotional void that defines deadly psychopathy. Early warning signs can include escalating deception, exploitation, and disregard for social norms or laws. While not all manipulative individuals become violent, recognition of persistent patterns of predation, emotional exploitation, and calculated risk-taking is essential for prevention. Understanding these patterns allows for intervention before escalation to deadly behavior occurs. The deadly psychopathic mind also demonstrates resilience under pressure. Stress, fear of exposure, or confrontation rarely deters them. Instead, these individuals often double down, using obstacles as opportunities to refine strategies, manipulate further, or escalate control. This adaptability makes them unpredictable, dangerous, and difficult to neutralize without awareness and strategic response. Finally, it is essential to recognize the continuum of psychopathic behavior. While some remain nonviolent manipulators, others escalate to criminally violent acts under specific circumstances. The traits that make a psychopath socially effective, fearlessness, charm, strategic thinking, can, in extreme cases, converge with opportunity and motive to produce lethal outcomes. Awareness, vigilance, and understanding are critical to recognizing potential danger before it manifests. Psychopaths are masters of disguise. They wear charm like armor, wield persuasion like a weapon, and manipulate perception so subtly that victims often remain unaware until significant damage has occurred. That makes recognizing the red flags essential. Spotting the signs early can protect relationships, careers, and even lives. But the warning signals are rarely obvious, They are nuanced, behavioral, and psychological. Understanding them is the first step towards staying safe. One of the most consistent indicators is superficial charm. While charm itself is not sinister, the type exhibited by psychopaths is calculated and manipulative. It is designed to impress, attract, and disarm. Pay attention to whether the charm feels excessive, targeted, or strategic rather than natural. Psychopaths are experts at tailoring interactions to exploit desires, fears, or ambitions, creating a sense of rapport that may feel instantaneous and intense. Closely tied to charm is grandiosity and inflated self-importance. Psychopaths often present themselves as exceptional, unique, or superior. They may exaggerate achievements, manipulate perceptions of status, or demand admiration. This isn't mere confidence. It is a deliberate display designed to impress, intimidate, and control. When combined with charm, it creates a compelling, almost magnetic presence that can overshadow skepticism. Another red flag is pathological lying and deception. Psychopaths lie with ease, often blending truth and falsehood to create believable narratives. These lies are not necessarily for immediate gain, they are strategic, designed to manipulate perception, advance personal agendas, or maintain control. Consistent inconsistency, denial of facts, or frequent storytelling that doesn't align with reality are strong warning signs. Manipulative behavior is a hallmark of psychopathy. Watch for subtle exploitation. Attempts to influence emotions, decisions, or social dynamics for personal gain. This can manifest as guilt-tripping, selective flattery, or playing on insecurities. Psychopaths often test boundaries and probe vulnerabilities, adjusting their approach based on reactions. Manipulation is rarely overt. It is woven seamlessly into interactions, making it easy to miss unless one is attentive. A critical red flag is lack of empathy. While some individuals may struggle to understand emotions, psychopaths display a consistent inability or unwillingness to connect emotionally with others. They may appear detached, dismissive, or indifferent to suffering, responding to crises with calculation rather than compassion. This absence of emotional resonance can leave victims feeling unacknowledged, confused, or exploited. Impulsivity combined with irresponsibility is another warning sign. Psychopaths often disregard social norms, rules, or obligations when convenient. This may include financial recklessness, career instability, or careless behavior that affects others. While some of these actions may seem isolated or benign, a pattern of disregard can indicate underlying psychopathic traits. Superficial relationships and shallow connections are common. Psychopaths rarely form deep, reciprocal bonds. They may maintain numerous acquaintances or partnerships, but these connections are typically transactional or strategic. Watch for patterns where relationships lack depth, emotional reciprocity, or long-term commitment, especially when accompanied by charm, flattery, or manipulative behavior. Excessive need for stimulation and risk-taking can also signal psychopathy. Many psychopaths are drawn to excitement, novelty, or thrill-seeking, often without considering consequences. This may manifest in reckless decisions, dangerous hobbies, or provocative behavior designed to elicit reactions. Such risk-taking is often intertwined with confidence, charm, and a sense of invulnerability. Blame-shifting and lack of accountability are frequent indicators. Psychopaths rarely accept responsibility for mistakes or failures. Instead, they deflect, rationalize, or manipulate others into accepting blame. Observing repeated avoidance of accountability, especially in combination with other red flags, is a warning sign of manipulative and psychopathic tendencies. Emotional volatility or controlled aggression is another subtle clue. While psychopaths can be superficially charming and calm, they may also display sudden irritability, subtle intimidation, or coercive behavior when challenged. This controlled volatility can serve as a psychological lever, creating fear, compliance, or emotional dependency in others. The pattern of exploiting vulnerabilities is crucial to recognize. Psychopaths often identify insecurities, weaknesses, or desires in their targets and use them strategically. This exploitation can appear as guidance, advice, or mentorship at first, but gradually creates dependency and control. Awareness of subtle exploitation is essential to avoid entanglement. Superficial emotions paired with strategic intent are particularly revealing. Psychopaths may display emotions that seem appropriate, but closer observation reveals inconsistency or detachment. For example, they may appear upset, apologetic, or affectionate when it serves their purpose, but these displays are calculated, not genuine. Recognizing the difference between authentic and instrumental emotion is a key skill. Isolation tactics are also common. Psychopaths may subtly undermine support systems, question relationships, or sow discord among friends and family. This isolation increases vulnerability, reduces external perspective, and strengthens the psychopath's control. Small, incremental actions, casual criticisms, subtle suggestions, or social manipulation can accumulate into significant isolation. Suspense builds when considering gradual escalation. Psychopaths rarely reveal all warning signs at once. Instead, traits appear incrementally. Small lies, minor manipulations, subtle charm, and occasional detachment gradually form a recognizable pattern. Awareness requires careful attention to behavior over time rather than single incidents. Intuition and gut feeling can be valuable indicators. Many victims report a sense of unease, discomfort, or something off before consciously recognizing manipulation. While intuition alone is not definitive, when combined with behavioral patterns, inconsistencies, and subtle manipulations, it can be an early warning of psychopathic influence. Red flags are cumulative. One isolated trait may not indicate psychopathy, but multiple traits, especially when consistent across contexts, paint a clearer picture. Observing charm alongside deception, manipulation, lack of empathy, and exploitation of vulnerabilities is a strong signal to proceed cautiously and protect personal boundaries. Finally, understanding the psychopath's adaptive behavior is essential. They are highly skilled at observing responses, adjusting tactics, and concealing intent. Red flags are often subtle and require vigilance, reflection, and sometimes consultation with others. Patterns over time are more telling than individual incidents, emphasizing the importance of awareness and discernment. Encountering a psychopath, whether in a relationship, workplace, or social circle, can feel like stepping into a psychological battlefield. Their charm, manipulation, and subtle influence can entangle victims before they even realize it. Survival is not about confrontation. It is about awareness, strategy, and deliberate action. Understanding how to protect oneself is essential for reclaiming control, maintaining safety, and escaping the grip of a psychopathic presence. The first principle of survival is recognition. Awareness of the traits, patterns, and behaviors associated with psychopathy is crucial. Understanding the red flags outlined earlier, charm, manipulation, deception, lack of empathy, allows for early detection. The earlier a psychopath's behavior is recognized, the more effective protective strategies can be. Ignoring or rationalizing warning signs only gives the psychopath more room to manipulate and control. Setting boundaries is the next critical step. Psychopaths test limits and exploit gaps in personal and professional boundaries. Clear, firm, and consistent boundaries reduce vulnerability. For example, in the workplace, document all communications and interactions. In personal relationships, assert expectations clearly and avoid overexposure to emotional or financial dependence. Boundaries act as a psychological and practical barrier against manipulation. Emotional detachment is key. Psychopaths exploit emotional responses, anger, fear, love, or guilt, to manipulate outcomes. Maintaining emotional distance reduces the levers they can use. This doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means controlling emotional reactions to avoid impulsive responses that can be exploited. Observing behavior objectively and responding strategically undermines the psychopath's influence. Documentation and evidence are essential, particularly in professional or legal contexts. Psychopaths often distort facts, deny events, or manipulate perception. Keeping written records, emails, and evidence of interactions can protect against gaslighting, false accusations, or coercion. Documentation establishes an objective record that can be critical in disputes, complaints, or legal proceedings. Minimizing dependency is another survival tactic. Psychopaths thrive on control, which is amplified when targets are emotionally, financially, or socially dependent. Diversifying support networks, maintaining financial autonomy, and retaining independent decision-making power reduces susceptibility. Empowerment is a key defense. Psychopaths cannot manipulate what they cannot control. Strategic disengagement is often necessary. Complete confrontation can escalate conflict, provoke retaliation, or increase risk. Instead, controlled withdrawal, reducing interaction, limiting exposure, and disengaging from emotionally charged exchanges preserves safety. This strategy requires patience, planning, and emotional discipline, as abrupt or visible withdrawal can trigger manipulative responses. Alliances and support networks are invaluable. Psychopaths often isolate targets to increase control. Maintaining strong connections with friends, family, colleagues, or professional advisors provides perspective, validation, and protection. Trusted individuals can help identify manipulative behavior, provide objective advice, and assist in planning safe disengagement. Predicting tactics and responses enhances survival. Psychopaths are adaptive and strategic. They adjust based on feedback. By understanding common patterns, such as charm, flattery, gaslighting, or intimidation, targets can anticipate moves, avoid traps, and maintain the upper hand. Observation and careful analysis transform vulnerability into informed action. Avoiding direct confrontation is often wise. Psychopaths are skilled at turning conflict to their advantage. Openly challenging or accusing them can escalate manipulation or provoke retaliation. Instead, focus on neutral, factual communication and strategic planning for disengagement. Detachment, calmness, and avoidance of emotional escalation reduce the risk of being drawn into psychological traps. Self-empowerment and assertiveness are critical. Confidence, clarity, and consistent behavior undermine the psychopath's influence. By asserting needs, refusing manipulation, and maintaining personal agency, targets reduce control dynamics. Psychopaths thrive on uncertainty and compliance. Demonstrating strength and clarity interrupts their strategies. Escape planning is vital in extreme situations. For victims in abusive or potentially dangerous contexts, developing a detailed, safe plan for leaving is essential. This may involve identifying safe locations, arranging legal protection, securing financial resources, and notifying trusted allies. A structured plan increases safety and reduces the likelihood of reactive or risky decisions. Psychological resilience is necessary for recovery and ongoing protection. Encountering a psychopath can be mentally and emotionally draining. Developing coping strategies through therapy, mindfulness, or supportive communities helps victims rebuild confidence, maintain perspective, and resist future manipulation. Psychological resilience is both a defensive and restorative measure. Maintaining privacy and control over information is another survival tactic. Psychopaths exploit access to personal details for manipulation or leverage. Limiting disclosure, securing personal communications, and controlling social media exposure reduce opportunities for exploitation. Privacy is a practical barrier that complements emotional and strategic defenses. Recognizing manipulation cycles prevents re-engagement. Psychopaths often attempt to reassert control after disengagement through charm, promises, or emotional appeals. Awareness of these cycles allows targets to maintain distance, anticipate attempts at influence, and refuse re-engagement without guilt. Vigilance after separation is critical for long-term protection. Professional guidance can be invaluable. In complex situations, legal disputes, workplace harassment, or domestic abuse, consulting psychologists, legal advisors, or organizational resources ensures informed strategies. Experts provide insight into patterns, risks, and best practices for safe disengagement. The world of a psychopath is cold, calculated, and devoid of traditional emotional anchors. Living, even temporarily, in proximity to such minds can be disorienting, frightening, and profoundly instructive. While most of the discussion about psychopathy focuses on danger, manipulation, and exploitation, there is also a reflective dimension. Understanding their world teaches us about human nature, morality, and our own vulnerabilities. At the core, psychopathy is a study in emotional absence. The absence of empathy, guilt, and remorse highlights just how fundamental these emotions are to ordinary human experience. Observing a psychopath's interactions forces us to confront the role of morality, social conscience, and ethical reasoning in guiding behavior. Their choices are governed by strategy and self-interest, providing a stark contrast to the emotional frameworks most of us rely on. One of the lessons is the power of self-awareness. Being confronted by someone who manipulates effortlessly and observes without judgment challenges us to understand our own reactions, biases, and triggers. Psychopaths exploit the vulnerabilities we often take for granted: insecurities, desires for approval, and trust in others. In recognizing these vulnerabilities in ourselves, we gain insight into human psychology and the mechanics of influence that operate in everyday life, not just in extreme cases. Living in a psychopathic world also teaches the value of boundaries and autonomy. Psychopaths thrive on control and dependence, so maintaining personal agency is crucial. When we observe or survive their tactics, it reinforces the importance of establishing clear limits, asserting needs, and protecting personal space. The dark mirror of psychopathy illuminates how easily autonomy can be undermined when boundaries are unclear, inconsistent, or ignored. Another lesson comes from the power of perception and reality. Psychopaths manipulate reality through charm, deception, and selective disclosure, forcing victims to question their perceptions. This underscores the human tendency to trust appearances and social cues, even when misleading. It teaches us to critically evaluate information, question inconsistencies, and be mindful of cognitive biases that can distort judgment. Emotional intelligence emerges as a key skill. While psychopaths exploit emotional cues without experiencing them, those navigating their world must develop heightened awareness of feelings, both their own and others. Understanding how emotions can be manipulated enables individuals to respond strategically, avoid traps, and maintain psychological stability. Emotional intelligence becomes both shield and compass in navigating deception and influence. The encounter with psychopathy highlights the duality of human nature. It reminds us that traits like charm, persuasiveness, and confidence are not inherently good or bad. They can be used ethically or manipulatively. Recognizing this duality prompts reflection on how our own skills and influence can impact others, for better or worse. Awareness fosters ethical responsibility, empathy, and self-regulation. Living in their world teaches lessons about trust and skepticism. Psychopaths exploit human tendencies to trust, collaborate, and bond socially. Exposure to such manipulation reinforces the importance of discernment, evaluating intentions, observing patterns, and balancing openness with caution. Learning to calibrate trust based on behavior rather than appearances is a critical survival skill, one that extends beyond encounters with extreme personalities. The experience also underscores the fragility of social cohesion. Psychopaths often create division, jealousy, or conflict within groups to assert control. Observing this reminds us how easily relationships, workplaces, and communities can be disrupted by subtle influence. It teaches vigilance, awareness, and the importance of fostering trust, transparency, and mutual support in healthy social dynamics. Another profound lesson is the resilience of the human spirit. Those who endure or escape psychopathic influence often discover inner strength, clarity, and self-reliance they did not know they possessed. Confronting manipulation, deception, or intimidation cultivates strategic thinking, emotional fortitude, and the ability to maintain composure under pressure. Surviving their world becomes a testament to adaptability and resilience. Psychopaths also act as a mirror for ethical reflection. Their lack of morality and empathy forces us to ask difficult questions about the choices we make, the motives that guide us, and the consequences of our actions. Observing behavior driven purely by self-interest contrasts sharply with cooperative, compassionate decision-making, offering insight into the social and moral frameworks that sustain human communities. We also learn the importance of vigilance over complacency. Many victims underestimate subtle manipulations or rationalize questionable behavior until it escalates. Being exposed to psychopathy teaches the value of attentiveness, monitoring patterns, questioning motives, and protecting oneself from both overt and covert exploitation. Vigilance is not paranoia, it is informed awareness. The dark mirror also reflects our emotional dependencies and desires for validation. Psychopaths target insecurities and exploit our need for recognition, approval, or connection. Recognizing how these traits can be leveraged reveals not only the mechanisms of manipulation but also the underlying human tendencies we carry. This self-knowledge allows for growth, self-regulation, and improved decision-making. Finally, the experience emphasizes the importance of ethical, empathetic behavior in counterpoint to psychopathy. Observing what occurs in the absence of empathy, conscience, and moral responsibility illuminates the positive roles these qualities play in daily life. It reinforces the value of compassion, fairness, and honesty, not only as social norms but as protective and cohesive forces in relationships and communities. And now, after walking through the corridors of a psychopath's mind, I want to leave you with one question. What's more dangerous, them or the fact that most of us never see them coming? If this journey through the shadows gave your insight, protect yourself by hitting that subscribe button, because knowledge is your best defense, and there are many more dark truths waiting to be uncovered. Stay sharp, stay aware, and remember, the mask is everywhere.